So Kuro has officially released Carlotta's signature weapon called The Last Dance, which is the first limited 5-star pistol that we've ever gotten so far ever since the game's release. And I'm sure Chisholmays are incredibly excited right now because the passive works incredibly well with her as if it's her own signature weapon. However, the stats on the weapon are not quite what I expected from a weapon that I'll consider as having a high pull value. In this video, I'm going to help break it down to help you make some informed decisions before pulling for this weapon to improve your account, especially if you're a free-to-play player or a dolphin like myself. If this video proves helpful in any way, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to help support the channel. We're trying to get to 7k subs before the year ends, so I'll really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel. The weapon gives a base attack of 500 and a crit damage of a whopping 72%, which is much similar to Jeji's signature weapon. The first part of the passive gives 12% attack at rank 1 instead of elemental damage bonus like what we have on the Ages of Harvest and Verdant Summit. The second part of the passive will give you 48% resonance skill damage bonus at rank 1 by just triggering an intro skill or just using their resonance liberation. The 500 base attack is a bit low considering the fact that most DPS weapons that we have in the game so far, like the Static Mist, have 587 base attack, and base attack is incredibly important in the game because all the attack percentages that you gain from Echo Sonata effects and character sequences always act as a multiplier of your total base attack that you get from weapons and by leveling your characters, contributing to a higher overall damage. The 72% crit damage is actually what makes this weapon special because crit damage echoes that we have in the game so far only provide up to 44%, so players who decide to pull for this weapon will have a high crit damage stat overall, but not necessarily consistent damage over time. Having such a high crit damage means that you need a high crit rate to make good use of it. So it's only good if Carlotta's skill tree has crit rate on it instead of crit damage. Let's use my Gian build as an example. His signature weapon is crit damage, so I have a crit rate 4 cost echo equipped in the main slot. I have rolled crit rate on every piece and his total crit rate is 74%, which is within the recommended crit rate for all DPS characters. However, the 74% crit rate was made possible because Jian's skill tree has crit rate stats on it instead of crit damage. If it was crit damage, he would have lost 8% crit rate, resulting in a 66% crit rate with a much higher crit damage, leading to inconsistent damage over time. So if Carlotta has crit rate on her skill tree, you should be looking at 74% total crit rate and 66% total crit rate if she has crit damage on her skill tree instead. Only if you roll crit rate on every echo piece that you equip on her for both of these scenarios. This means that it will be difficult to maintain healthy crit stats for other DPS characters who might use Carlotta's signature weapon if they have elemental damage bonus or crit damage on their skill tree, leading to inconsistent damage over time. This is why the String Master is one of the best weapons that we have in the game so far, because you won't really care whether the equipped character has crit rate or crit damage on their skill tree due to the large crit rate substats that you get. So you can get away with rolling only crit damage on some echo pieces and still maintain a healthy crit ratio on every character that you run them with. A lot of players might also think that having a high crit damage signature weapon means that the character will have crit rate stats on their skill tree, but keep in mind that Jinshi has a crit rate signature weapon and crit rate on her skill tree, resulting in a 76% overall crit rate on my build, so this basically means that Kuro can do anything that they want. A great example is Yuhu, who has crit rate on her skill tree, even though she's not designated as a main damage dealer, further proving my point that there's no particular trend with the skill tree stats, so Carlotta can have either crit rate or crit damage on her skill tree upon release. But if she ends up getting crit damage instead of crit rate on her skill tree, it won't be a problem because most players will pair her with Shorekeeper anyway to make use of the high crit damage. The 12% attack on the passive is not that great because you can gain attack from multiple sources in the game, including Echo Sonata effects like Rejuvenating Glow and Moonlit Clouds, so it would have been better if it was 12% elemental damage bonus like what we have on the Verdant Summit and the Ages of Harvest, because elemental damage bonus is much harder to get compared to attack percentage, which can output more damage overall. The second part of the passive is also not that great because of the 5 seconds short duration, and the only way to refresh refresh the buff is by using an intro skill or resonance liberation. So if you want to play Carlotta solo, you can only get the resonance skill buff for 5 seconds after using her liberation, but playing duo or full team will help you extend it to 10 seconds because of the intro skill that you can get from your teammates. The weapon also puts a restriction on Carlotta's playstyle because if you intro with her and immediately use your liberation to activate the cannon shot, you will lose out on damage because doing so will satisfy the intro skill and resonance liberation conditions, so all her abilities that you will use after the cannon shot will not benefit from any resonance skill buff since the 5 seconds buff duration will be over by then. So the most efficient way to use this weapon on her is to use her forte skill overhead shot and the damage she does when she has full forte stacks after an intro skill before you activate her liberation to refresh the buff, so that the damage from the forte skill overhead shot, full forte stacks, and cannon shot can all benefit from the resonance skill damage bonus within a 10 seconds duration. The second part of the passive is incredibly easy to activate on Tisha because her S4 grants you full forte stacks after casting her liberation, which incentivizes you to do damage with her forte abilities before you use her liberation to gain full forte stacks and use her forte ability again. Unfortunately, Alto cannot benefit from the second passive because his jump shots are considered basic attack damage, so be sure to keep that in mind. Now, time to answer the big question on everyone's mind, and that is, should you pull for this weapon? And my answer is no. The first reason is the low base attack, which reduces its value on future pistol DPS characters who do not synergize with the weapon passive. The second reason is that it will be difficult to make use of the high crit damage on other DPS characters who have crit damage instead of crit rate on their skill tree, which is why weapons that have crit rate substats have more pull value than a crit damage substat. But Shorekeeper can help with this problem if you have her on your account. Also keep in mind that it will take a while before you can optimize your build to get enough crit rate while using Carlotta's signature weapon, since you will most likely farm for her new echo set in Renacita. The third reason is the short buff duration and limited means of refreshing the buff, which can make your rotations a bit strict because you can easily lose the buff if you get sent flying by the enemy or dodge consecutive attacks from enemies like Crownless after an intro skill or after using her liberation. Other characters like Zhang Liao can easily extend his signature weapons buff up to 15 seconds by just using either his divergence skill or forte cube explosion skill, and you don't need teammates to make that happen. It would be better if they maintained the conditions for the buff activation, but extend the buffing duration for every condition to about 8 seconds instead of 5 seconds. Overall, this weapon does not have that much pull value in my opinion, but feel free to pull for it specifically for Carlotta if you want to, since this is her signature weapon. For those who want something versatile that they can easily use on other DPS characters except Tisha, I suggest you wait for a better option by using the Static Mist standard weapon for now. You can easily delete every enemy in the game as long as you're using a 5-star weapon with the right team composition. Hope this was helpful, and be sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more videos in the future. Also, be sure to check out the community Discord if you need any help with the game or you just want a place to chill or hang out. Link will be in the channel description. Catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye.